which was last year, we decided to not just fly a couple pilots in the front of the vehicle, but we also flew Beth in the back. And we figured if she was going to be training all the astronauts or the future astronauts, our customers, then she should, fly to space to understand what it's like. And so she flew on it. She was a longtime NASA employee, did a lot of great stuff for the International Space Station program, but she had not been to space herself. She was not an astronaut. And so this was literally the first time that she'd ever been to space. And this was the first time that she'd ever looked down at planet Earth. And that reaction that you see on her face is exactly the kind of reaction that we hope to give to our customers, which is that mix of awe and wonder and joy and discovery and just an incredible moment in time. And that's what she experienced, and that's what we hope to share with hundreds and eventually thousands of people over the course of the coming years. Here's just another picture of Earth from, this is looking out the cockpit. So what the pilots see, they have a bunch of windows in the front. Each passenger or customer on board has two windows all to themselves, one to the side and one above their heads. And once we get out of the atmosphere, we actually pivot the vehicle so that the vehicle's in some ways like pointing down towards the planet, or the top windows are pointing down towards the planet, so you get a great view of planet Earth. So that's sort of the basic trajectory, and we've been test flying that for a long time, and we're really looking forward to doing some great stuff over the coming years. Why don't I just talk a little bit about the business side of things? So in late 2019, we went public, and this is a picture of the New York Stock Exchange on the day that we went public. We went public through a SPAC, which is a special purpose acquisition company that was led by Chamath Palihapitiya and Adam Bain and various other great people. And I do think that for those of you who are in the business or the entrepreneurial world, this was sort of a catalytic moment when it came to SPACs. And we can certainly talk about that more if anybody's interested. But in the past, SPACs had been maybe not for everyone as an investment, but partly because of us and because of other prominent offerings. I think there's obviously now been a profusion of SPACs, and it's become a much more of an established way of going public, and it's been successful for us. We've been lucky overall, and we hope to continue to deliver value to our shareholders. So that was fun. Here's just a nice picture. It's a little bit old now, but of some of our future vehicles. So we don't just have one vehicle. We want to build a fleet of vehicles. This is the next one, which is called, well, I won't say what it's called. But we'll be rolling it out when it's all finished and covered in a beautiful livery and everything. And we'll keep producing these, and these are being built in Mojave. So it's pretty amazing here that in California, that we're building spaceships, particularly in Southern California. It's just such an incredible area between us and some of the other companies, or at least the West Coast of the United States. There's just so much innovation going on in human spaceflight right now, and new vehicles being built, and that was exactly the vision that we had, back in honestly, 10 years ago when I was at NASA. We were really hoping to catalyze that innovation and have a bunch of different competitors and a bunch of different players innovating against each other and driving everybody forward, and that has really played out. I like to share the stat that, in 2000, the US actually had a 0% share of the international launch market. And now, primarily thanks to SpaceX, but not just SpaceX, it's now significantly over 50%. And not just that, but, we have, a series of human spaceflight vehicles. Dragon will be launching shortly for the all-important Crew 1 mission. We'll be starting commercial service. Blue will be doing its New Shepard and eventually, New Glenn vehicles, and of course Boeing will be launching on the Atlas V, and so and then eventually Sierra Nevada will be launching its cargo-oriented Dream Chaser, which could play a part in other things. So the profusion of innovation around space vehicles is so exciting, and just a sign of the overall activity in the space business today. We've got incredible group of customers. We've got, let's see, about 600 folks who've actually paid a deposit, but then we have many hundreds more who have participated in this program where they could put a small chunk down, and they want to buy a ticket when am I muted, or can you hear me? Okay. That they want to buy a ticket when we open tickets, which should be next year, and so that's really exciting. And we're deeply indebted to our customers, because in many ways these are the rocket fuel of Virgin Galactic. Because this was an unproven thing 15 years ago, and a whole bunch of people decided that they wanted to really help be early adopters and to help make it happen, to prove that there was a market for human spaceflight. And so, they took a leap of faith on the company, and we're looking forward to, sharing with them their dream over the course of the coming months and years. Okay, so just a few other fun things. We've done a bunch of partnerships with different companies. This is our spacewear line. So this is Richard Branson there in the middle is wearing the suit that our customers will be wearing to space. We partnered with Under Armour for this collection, and they've done a terrific job of sharing all these really great suits and layers and everything. And so basically you'll wear the suit in the middle when you go to space. On the right are a couple of other suits that are your training suits. So you wear those in the few days leading up to the flight. We have 3 days of training before the flight. And then these are the other garments that people will wear. And then here's just a shot of the inside of the vehicle. This is a rendering, but it's going to be really great. We've tried to have a right balance between having a really cool interior, but recognizing that what people are going up for is really going outside of the Earth's atmosphere, or rather looking down at planet Earth and microgravity. And so we're trying to strike the right balance there. And one of the fun things, so you can see all the windows there. That's really cool. There are a bunch of cameras all over the cabin, so people will be able to be recorded without having to take pictures themselves. They don't need to worry about taking their camera along with them. And then a fun thing in the back, there's a large mirror, so people will be able to actually see themselves in space and in microgravity, which is a really cool thing. I've done a bunch of parabolic flights on microgravity, and I think the ability to see yourself in weightlessness is going to be really wonderful. Okay, so that's Galactic, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about Galactic as we get into the Q&A. But I did want to just share a little bit about some advice that I've gotten, or think is important over the course of my limited career. I wouldn't profess to being any kind of expert on this stuff, but a few words. And what I've done is divided into two groups. One is for students or young professionals, and one is for entrepreneurs. So just 2 slides, and I'll share a few words, and then I'll close by talking a little bit about specific areas in the space sector that I see as exciting opportunities. Okay, so let's see. So a few words for young professionals or students. Number one is that I always found going to in college that a lot of it was a solitary experience, and I think that that's changing now, which is really good. And it's really good that it's changing because honestly, the working world is a world in which you work in teams. And the idea that you're going to sort of just work on your single thing all by yourself, and then at the end you're graded, is just not really something that happens a lot out in the the real world. You're constantly working with groups of people, and success is really based ultimately on your ability, in most ways, on your ability to bring the best out in your team. Now, there are exceptions, concert pianists, college professors, novelists. These people are mostly graded on, the work that they do themselves. But for most people, it's working with other people that determines success. And so the more practice you can get at that while you're still in academia, I think the better it is, particularly if you want to go into industry or government or things that entail working together with other people. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't be good at physics or math or English or whatever. Individual excellence is a key contributing factor. But what I've found in my career is that the people who shoot up the ranks and who do great things are people who can work well with others, and even more, they're people who bring out the best in others. And so, doing work in clubs or on teams or competitions, these are all really good practice for that, and it's certainly something that we look for when we're hiring folks. One of the people that I always like to call out is a leader within our company named Mike Moses, who was the chairman of the mission management team for the last 12 missions for the space shuttle program. He's an amazing engineer, an amazing human being. I will say he's an incredible engineer, but what has made him just shoot up the ranks within NASA and then basically run space operations for us is his ability to bring the best out in teams and to work with others. So be like that if you can. That's a really great thing, and just wanted to underscore that. Another interesting lesson as a young person is that you should be clear about the things that you want in an organization and be ambitious, but be calibrated in those asks and be working hard, because nobody's going to reward people who aren't making a big contribution. But if you are working hard and you've demonstrated value, expressing that you want new opportunities or leadership opportunities is important, because sometimes if you're just doing your thing, then people say, okay, that's great, he's doing his thing and he's happy, and that you need to communicate what you need and what you want, but you need to do it in a respectful way that people take it in a positive way. One of the things that I recommend to all the interns who come to our company, and by the way, I should say, we are hiring, and so for both young professionals, students, and mid-career or senior career folks, if you're interested in an opportunity in human spaceflight or some future things that we're working on, I really encourage you to reach out to me or to look at our website, which has all our job opportunities. My email is just george@virgingalactic.com, super simple, GEORGE. And I'd love to hear from you if you think that you could bring something to our organization. But one thing that I do say to interns in our org is request lunches with people who you think are interesting, because everybody needs to eat, and you'll just learn a lot. And if you have a positive culture in your organization, older people are going to be interested in leaning forward and trying to mentor younger people. But just go out there and ask for lunch, and you'll learn a lot, and just talk about their careers or what they've learned, and it's just a great general life lesson that I think people should take advantage of. The next one is talk to people to get a sense of what orgs are doing exciting things. I hate the word networking, but that's what that means, is networking is really important for figuring out where are the exciting fellowships, where are the exciting internships, which companies are doing the most exciting things, and I'll talk about some of those companies in a bit. Obviously we think what ours is, we're one of them, but you got to talk to people, and you talk to venture capitalists, or you talk to professors, or you talk to other people who are young professionals who are starting out work, and all these people will give you information about the places that are doing the best things, and you really want to try to get into those places where people are doing exciting things, because other great people will have also used their radar to pick up those exciting places, and you'll build your network, you'll build your experience base, and you'll be working on things that matter. The last piece of advice for young professionals is just pay attention to the mundane, everyday actions that you like doing or thinking about, because they're ultimately a guide to your long-term happiness. My dad used to say that the reason he became a chemist is because he liked washing dishes. What did he mean by that? I don't even know if that's applicable to chemistry today, but like back in the day, you had to wash a lot of beakers and things like that when you were doing chemistry, and he actually sort of liked doing that. Now, it's sort of, it's maybe simplifying a bit, but the general point is, think about what you really like doing. Do you love doing, physics problems, or do you like talking to people? Do you like selling things? Do you like, I don't know, do you like money? That's not a bad thing. What are the things that, you like doing most on a, just a daily basis? And those basic things, and trying to match, those basic things with your profession is something that some people don't do. And it takes a lot of self-awareness to do those things. And I encourage you to think about those. But anyway, those are some useful lessons for young professionals. And now let's do a few things just for the entrepreneurs out there, because I know there are a bunch of them. And I mean, honestly, I've just whittled this down to a few things that I found to be super important. Some of these may be perceived as somewhat obvious, but I found that despite their obviousness, a lot of people don't do them and their organizations suffer. So the number one thing is to nurture and protect your passion, because it's the key to your purpose and success, especially when you're, grinding it out year on year. I mean, I was CEO for 10 years. The thing that matters is that wellspring of your success is going to be your inspiration and your passion. And if you don't tend to it like a garden and protect it and nurture it, then you're going to get burned out. And that then takes away, it snuffs out that inspirational fire that drives your organization. So the people that I've seen that are really, really successful are people who protect that passion, who stay inspired about what they're doing, and who, and that then drives them forward. So having an eye towards that, to protecting that and to nurturing it is really, really important. That's why I go to see every space movie I can. It's why I, like go outside at night and look at the stars and the moon and try to show my kids, the moon with binoculars or something. It's like sharing that inspiration. But that's for me, that's space, but whatever it is for you, protecting that inspiration is really, really important, because it is the source of the company's culture. If you're, a key executive or a founder. Another key thing is over communicating the culture and values and purpose that you want your organization to be. Now, everybody says this, but few people actually do it enough. And what I've realized over the years is that you really need to over communicate this, especially early on in the org, but not just early on. You need to keep doing it. You need to do it so much that people almost, your troops almost joke about it, because that's when you'll know that it's sort of deeply embedded in their heads, their minds, and their daily work. And so I think that you literally cannot talk about your culture and values too much. I just don't think you can do it because you have to embed that. Now you have to live it, and so you can't just talk about it. You have to live it, but you have to be communicating it constantly, particularly in those early years when you're building the culture. Amidst this group of people that's growing. To that end, I think staying involved in hiring as a senior exec or a founder is super important, right? Because your hiring becomes your culture, right? And you are the one who has the clearest sense of what you want your culture to be. And so staying involved in that hiring process, even if it's just the last step or whatever, however you want to do it, so that you can occasionally weed out people who you think are not the right fit. And also it helps you practice your hiring. And, as the founder or as the senior exec, you're going to be involved in more hiring decisions than anybody else in the company. And so you're going to build up that muscle of, your spidey sense of who's good, who's not good, or who might not be a good fit, or, whatever it is, whatever you want your culture to be, that hiring process is going to be crucial to that. Two other quick points, and then I'll move on. So your board is super important, and establishing a purpose-driven board, I think, is really the next major challenge for the American economy. I think that, we need to move from a purely fiduciary conception of the board to a broader conception that integrates both fiduciary duties as well as sort of purpose-driven duties. And I think we've done a pretty good job at that with Galactic over the years. And I think it's just super crucial that founders and senior execs pay a lot of attention to that. Number one, I think it'll improve the performance of your business. But number two, it's crucial for your executive team, because the board is who you're reporting to, and your board is, who you're spending a lot of time with, particularly for the founders, CEOs, and CFOs and other folks out there. And so having people who share that vision and who authentically connect with the inspiration of your company is absolutely crucial. And so it can't just be fiduciary fit. It has to, I think, also be a purpose-driven fit, which is super important. And then the last thing, just for the entrepreneurs and people out there, is obviously your life partner is an important choice. I guess that goes for the young professionals too. I've been lucky enough to be married to an amazing woman, Loretta Hidalgo Whitesides, and that is a super important part of success is finding somebody who's connected and consistent with your values and purpose in life. And so, sort of an obvious thing, and maybe not the number one thing to say, but not the most obvious thing to say, but in some ways it is the most obvious thing, and the most important thing is think carefully about that. Okay, I'm going to close with just a few words about space opportunities, and then we'll move into Q&A. Clearly, highly reusable launch is going to be the driving thing that's going to drive so many opportunities in space. As we reduce the cost of space access, and that cost has come down significantly over the past 10 or 20 years, and it's going to keep dropping both on the orbital and suborbital sides. It's going to open up all kinds of opportunities in space. And Southern California is the center for a lot of this activity, or at least the West Coast of the United States. So that's a really exciting area. There's a lot of work in autonomy, in guidance, in materials, all kinds of things that are going on there. But I will say it's not necessarily only for big companies, but it's sort of medium to big companies up. So really exciting stuff going on there. That then lowers launch costs, and because when you have $10,000 a kilogram to put something in orbit, that means only certain businesses make sense. But if that comes down to $1,000 or even $100 per kilogram, then that totally changes the game for what's possible in terms of space. Another key area is obviously mega constellations or large constellations, which will not just be a communication layer for Earth, but will also become, I think, a sensing layer, almost like a skin for Earth. I lived through the first generation of large constellations in the 90s and 2000s. That didn't work so well. But I think that this next generation, where you have, SpaceX, Kuiper, Chinese, Canadians, Europeans, OneWeb, I don't know if all of them will work, but certainly many of them will. And that's going to be a really exciting area to think about how you can integrate not just primary payloads, but also potentially secondary payloads on these things, because all these constellations are going to be reconstituted over time and over a relatively short period of time. And so there's going to be opportunities to put new stuff on ensuing generations. The intersections between space and ground tech is a really exciting area. Most of the stuff for launch and satellites are primarily B2B opportunities, but thinking about the B2C opportunities in space, I think, is an area which is really exciting, and an area where people can, have a lot of creativity with potentially smaller organizations or smaller startups. So that's something to think about. LEO commercialization, HABs, and activity, I think it's going to be a really interesting thing over the next 10 years as NASA moves forward. And then just for the scientists out there, I just thought I'd mention a few things that are really exciting to me that are not necessarily business related, but are really important to the future of humanity. Number one being small sat planetary exploration. And you're lucky if you're part of the SoCal or Caltech or JPL communities. There's a lot of leadership coming from SoCal in that area. So that's super exciting, sending swarms of satellites all over the solar system. Exoplanet biosignatures, I think this generation coming out of college will be the ones that do have the opportunity to detect biosignatures in other exoplanet atmospheres. So that's, either with James Webb or other other things. Clearly, lunar mission waves of all kinds of things are going to be really exciting. And then finally, the most important problem of all, climate and engineering, how those things go. The Resnick Center at Caltech is going to be a huge center of activity, I think, over the course of the coming years. Such an amazing gift there. And, all comes back to Spaceship Earth and thinking about Earth as this system of systems that the students coming out today will have to learn to, think really carefully about. How do they work together? How do those systems interact? And how do we have impact and influence on those systems? So much exciting opportunities out there. I'm going to stop my sharing, and we can maybe do some Q&A for the next 15 minutes. Okay, so let's see. In order to do that, Stan, you want me to just go into them, or you want to do it? How do you want to lead that?
Why don't you go ahead and just take some of the ones that that look most interesting to you. If you find one that that we'd like you to answer that you haven't, we'll bring it to your attention.
Okay, so I'm just going to go in the chat and start answering questions. Is that okay?
Well, Lynn had
what's that?
Well, Lynn had streamed some over to you as well.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. I just needed to refresh. All right. Does Virgin Galactic offer apprenticeships and/or VG higher non-degree positions? Is there an internal training program? Yes to all of those questions. So we have an apprenticeship program for folks who've done maybe community college or high school level stuff if they want to become fabricators. We're really proud of this program. This is an area where people can get really great jobs. We train them to take on manufacturing roles, and they're well paid and they got great benefits, and you're building spaceships. What could be better than that? So we do have those opportunities. We also have a range of internship programs for college students, and not just engineers, but also finance, business, communications, a range of different opportunities. And those are all on our website. So those are great things to look at. I'm where the speaker thinks that we should be focusing our resources, colonizing Mars, going back to the moon, replacing ISS, mining asteroids. I mean, it's all exciting. But driving down that cost of access enables everything else. So I think that I've always thought that that's a really, I mean, that's why I spend time in launch, because it's an enabling technology for a lot of other things. What role do international technology and service partnerships play in supporting Virgin Galactic's work? And do you see any technologies that particularly important at this time? So, one of the challenges of the space world is that, there's this law called ITAR, which does restrict, it doesn't prohibit, but it restricts the ability to work internationally. But we do have some exciting international opportunities. We're working with Italy and United Arab Emirates, among other countries, to think about how we might someday bring our spaceship system internationally, which I think would be really great. And so more to come on that. Does Virgin Galactic have an ISRU department? That's in situ resource utilization. Not currently, but if you think that we need to have one, shoot me an email and maybe we can talk. I think ISRU is mid to long term a super important technology for space development. Let's see. What are the physical qualifications required to fly as a customer? Really, there's not much. We've already tested a broad swath of our customers in a centrifuge and on microgravity flights, and people do great. The vast majority of people, no matter what their size, shape, or physical condition, can do space flight. And that's one of the really great things that we'll be able to change, is this view that space is just for professional, astronauts who are triathletes, et cetera, et cetera. It's not. It's for the rest of us as well. How long will a flight last, and what does it cost? So we haven't announced our new pricing, but it's going to be hundreds of, we have charged $250,000 in the past. And how long will the flight last? So the flight from takeoff to landing is about 90 minutes, and you're at space for a few minutes. Are you also open to the science community and investigators to fly their experiments? I should have talked about that. Yeah, we've got a really exciting science program where researchers can fly their own experiments. You can get money for that from the NASA Flight Opportunities Program. They have a constant open call, so you can go in and get your research flown on board our vehicle or other vehicles. And NASA is actually thinking now about flying researchers as well. So you could actually have NASA fly you to space. And in fact, a researcher named Alan Stern, a good friend of mine, is going to be the first researcher that NASA pays to fly to space on Spaceship Two. Will there be a consumer version of Virgin Galactic Under Armour spacey athletic wear? We hope so, but stay tuned on that. Are there any age qualifications to be a customer? Currently, the FAA says that you have to be above 18. Maybe someday that'll change. There's no upper limit. So, we have customers well into their 80s, and we're looking forward to flying them. Our schedule has been delayed many times. What's a realistic date for our first flight with paying customers? What date would I bet my life on? So we are a public company, so I have to be a little careful about what I say, but What I can say is that we're really hopeful about flying Richard Branson in the first quarter of next year, and we're looking forward to doing that. That'll be a huge flight for us. Are passengers allowed to get out of their seats in microgravity? And can you expand a little on the training program? So yes, they can get out of their seats, and that'll be part of the training program. So the training program will be 3 days. You come down to New Mexico, and you'll learn about the vehicle. You'll learn about procedures. You'll learn about your fellow crew members, and it'll be a fantastic experience and a lot of fun. How close is Virgin Galactic to offering flights to the ISS? Will this tech also be used for lunar surface travel? So we are thinking about offering flights to the ISS with partners. Many of our suborbital customers expressed to us over the years that they would like to fly to ISS, and we announced in our second quarter earnings call that we had collected several people who would put down a deposit to do that. So that's really exciting. Any opportunities for high school students to engage? I'm going rapid fire just to get through these quickly. Are there any opportunities for high school students to engage? You know, we have a great program called Galactic Unite, which people can look up online, Galactic Unite. And it's our educational program. It has a bunch of educational programs that people can connect into. And I would really encourage you to connect in on that. We don't have internships for high school students, but there are educational programs and webinars and stuff that you can connect into. I would encourage you to do that. Does Virgin Galactic have a path for young commercial pilots wanting to join its ranks? No, not yet. We did just hire 2 amazing pilots, but you know, like when we open a call for pilots, we're super lucky to have some of the best folks in the whole planet. You know, these were, you know, all ex-military fast jet pilots. I think if that's something that you'd like to do at some point, you know, then all the pilots that we've hired have been ex-military fast jet test pilots. So, you know, go to Top Gun and Air Force or Navy or Marines or something, maybe Space Force, I don't know, and work to go up that. And that's the same pathway for many of NASA professional astronauts. What are the reasons for in-house training of customers and crew? Really, there's nowhere you can go right now to get that. And we want to provide a really bespoke, beautiful, enjoyable experience. And Virgin Group is really great at providing those experiences. So we think we're going to be able to provide, you know, really the best training for our experience. Any opportunities to train space experience members as flight pilots? Yeah, I think so. I mean, we'll see, but not in the near term, I think. How do we vet board candidates? You know, we used a firm to help us identify folks. But you know, you just have to get to know people really well, and you have to understand what their passions are and what their backgrounds are. And I think there's no shortcut to just having deep conversations with people. Another thing that another shortcut that I like to use is finding somebody that you know, that you really trust, and if that person then recommends somebody else, you know, with all their heart and passion, then that person's probably a pretty good person. And that goes not just for board candidates, but also for you know, senior execs or senior employees. You know, finding somebody that you trust that would wholeheartedly endorse that person makes me feel a lot better when I'm making a senior hire. Sustainability, please share about the type of fuel used by the spaceship. So we use a nitrous oxide oxidizer and then an HTPB solid fuel mix. And you know, the nice thing about air launch is that we're using a lot less fuel because you don't have to, you know, power your way on a rocket up through the first 50,000 feet. We have a relatively low carbon impact. It's sort of on a per seat basis. It's sort of on the order of the per seat basis of flying across the Atlantic on a business class seat. So it's sort of similar to that. So that means that, say we fly a few hundred times, you know, we will have the equivalent carbon load in a year of like 1 or 2 or 3 transatlantic airliner flights. So not a lot. We should focus on making it smaller. Every company needs to, but it's not a huge carbon impact. How long should it take to have affordable trips? So, you know, obviously long term, we'd love to bring the price down. I don't think that'll happen in the near term. But that is the long-term vision, is to have it be more and more affordable over time. And I think that, you know, I don't know when that'll happen, but it is a sort of a long-term thing. I will say this, though. NASA has been getting charged by the Russians about $85 to $90 million per seat to go to the International Space Station. That's the most recent cost, I think around $90 million. And so when you look at our price, which has been in the past $250,000, you're talking about factors of hundreds less, to go to space. Now it's a different experience. Going to ISS is different than going on Earth. But whenever you have a price change in a market that is literally order of magnitude hundreds less, you're in an exciting area. So that's exciting to us. And then how do you see commercial potential for human colonization of the moon and Mars? Last question. It's all very exciting. Moon is, has a lot of great opportunities in the near term. I am one who believes deeply in the future of space, and our destiny is in the stars. But at the same time, we really have to take care of planet Earth as well. And so I think we can do both, and hopefully space technology will allow us to do that. Why don't I pause there, Stan? If we want to get this done in an hour, you may have some closing comments. And I will say that it's been a great pleasure to have the opportunity to speak to everybody. If people do have questions that I haven't answered, feel free to email me, george@virgingalactic.com. I'll try to answer them. And I wish everyone well in their studies or their companies. It's an exciting time, and I wish you well during this challenging time of COVID. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, George. Fantastic. I have one quick question: is how is it to work with and be with around in the same vicinity and all? I know you have a lot of autonomy and all in running the operations and everything, but with Richard Branson, can you comment on that at all?
Sure. I mean, Richard is an amazing human being, and one of the reasons that I've been motivated for so long is because of his, inspiring nature. He just really is a remarkable human being. He's not a micromanager. He lets his CEOs and senior execs do their thing. He's got your back. He's not one to run away from a fire. He runs towards the fire. So if there's a problem, he's gonna be there. And he's tough, but he really wants to make a difference in the world. And right now he's spending obviously a lot of time on philanthropy. But he cares a lot about the future of space and transportation. And, one of the things that we haven't had a lot of opportunity to talk about in this, which is fine, but, is thinking about, how do people move around the planet? He had some exciting news with his Hyperloop company over the weekend, where they carried the first people, I guess, on board a test capsule. So, he's involved in a lot of different future stuff, and he's just an incredible human being to work with.
That's fantastic. Are there any particular areas or even ways in which some of the entrepreneurs who feel they might have some opportunities of contracting with Virgin Galactic? Suggestions for you on those thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we have an established supply chain department and procurement departments. I encourage people to sort of go through the normal channels. They can either get in line, go to the TSC website. There's a way to submit your information if you're a supplier. If you're not having any luck, you can always email me directly. But usually the thing that's most efficient is just to go through the normal channels and to show whatever capabilities your company might have.
Terrific. I'll come back to you in just a moment for a last 30-second thought to leave the audience with. To the audience, I'd like to thank you for attending. Please come to our next program, which we'll be announcing shortly. And thank you all for attending, and see you again soon. But George, if you have a 30-second tidbit that you'd like to leave the audience with.
Space is super exciting, but, Spaceship Earth is sort of our most important spaceship. And hopefully everybody knows, I always think of, each generation is a new crew of Spaceship Earth. And so like mentoring the next generation is really important, because they're going to have the con pretty soon, and we got to do a good job of preparing everyone for their time at the steering wheel. So thanks for all you're doing out there. It's fun to talk.
That's terrific. Thank you again. And thank you to all who helped participate to make this program happen, and especially to our sponsors for their terrific support. We greatly appreciate it and look forward to another great fiscal year here at Caltech Entrepreneurs Forum. To the audience, this does conclude today's program. However, we will keep the chat open as we have the loop going in the background. And so you can chat actively in the chat room for about the next 5 or 10 minutes, or as long as there's activity, we'll try to keep it open. Thank you all again. George, thank you so much for the terrific presentation, and all success to you and Virgin Galactic.
Okay, thanks. Signing off. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thanks, George.